What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Urshel Speaks. Man, we've had a few weeks off, and I just sorry about that for those that I may have disappointed. And thank you to those that are happy that you didn't have to see me pop up on your social media feed. Yeah, I had to take a few weeks off, with all the different things that are going on, and one of them being, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it today, was that I started school, and I may have mentioned that at SMU in their executive MBA program, and midterms coming up. And I'm going to be honest, they got both feet up my backside. It's really been intense and awesome. And I learned some things, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I've experienced in light of everything else that's going on. I have a quick little conversation today. I hope to inject your morning with 20 minutes of stimulation for your brain, some intellectual caffeine that's going to energize you throughout the day to continue to think and grow in progress. And so let's jump right into it. Again, my name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. I'm so glad to be back having a little chat with you. So I started school, way back in 1984 was the first time in eighth grade, eighth, ninth grade, somewhere around there. Maybe 83 was when I first had the desire and the thoughts of going to SMU and being an SMU Mustang. And so now here we are, 2020. And that's what I'm doing, and I'm there, and great program. I'm 50, been out of school for a while, and I love, I love to learn. If you know me, the growth mindset, learning, challenging thought, all of those things, I really appreciate that. And then based on the circumstances of things that have been going on, I really prior to moving into this, I really felt like I was conditioning myself, and I was doing comprehension and reading, and some of that was due to the accident, the car accident, and kind of doing some therapy and some rewiring and all of those things. And I had my interview, and super excited as to why I'm so ready to jump into this next thing. And so here I am, and I feel like I've got the rhythm, and I've got the time and the passion. And I wrote this awesome essay about, why, at least I thought it was awesome, about why this was the right time. And, I'll graduate at 52, which was the age that my father was when he passed away. And so the template that I've followed my life following, the example of my father, kind of expires at that point, and then it's all new for me. So all of this stuff, I'm totally convinced that I was absolutely ready for this, and I still am. But here's one of the things, and I want to talk about this, talk about some recent conversations, and where we're at, and really want to speak to the climate that we're in here, right in the middle of an election cycle that we're getting ready to have. And so let me tell you, so far, of the multitude of things that I've learned just in this first half of the first term. One of the most obvious things that, probably everybody can get and understand is relearning how to learn. And not only that, because again, just getting information, processing information, dialogue, having conversations, tuning into people, and learning from experiences, learning from different cultures. There's so many different ways that we learn. And so for us, and even for the professors at the school, it's all very new. The professors have been teaching for years and years, probably most of them decades, they've been teaching, but they're having to learn to do it in some different ways. They're having to learn to give midterm exams over Zoom, and different ways of the whole process taking place while preserving the quality, the integrity, and the impact of the program. And so for myself and my study group, we have become intimately involved with each other. We have a stream of consciousness on WhatsApp where there's consistent communication, questions, and that's also combined with the class at large of over 80, I think maybe 86 people that are in this program right now. And so for all of us, the way that we organize, the way that we prepare, the way that we learn, process, and the way that we take these open book, open internet, open note exams that, have taken, a full 4 hours, almost the maximum time for every exam. And so that's made me think about a few things in light of conversations that I'm having, and even one that I had last night, and that just before the show, I'm still finishing, and that's, are we still positioned in our mindset to be learners? We've talked a lot, and I know some of you are familiar with Carol Dweck and things that have to do with growth mindset and all of these things. The question is, though, I found myself in a context that I hadn't been in a while. And even though, this year I've been devouring books, and I've been, I say that to make myself feel good. I've, read a few books, some of them on audio, and have captured, concepts and wanting to move my knowledge and brain and thinking and advance those things. I still, obviously identify that there are some things that I have to do if I'm going to learn the way and at the pace and to the degree that I want to learn these new concepts. And so the reason why I'm bringing all of that up in this context, and still talking about 2020, and still talking about this presidential election that we have coming up, and even more importantly, even though we don't see it that way, these local elections that we have coming up, because those things really impact our lives a lot more. And I've engaged more and more in conversations that I see, whether it be on social media or personal conversations, and conversations that, and we all know what they are. They're the homogenous conversations where someone makes a statement, no matter what it's based on, and they make that statement, and then everybody from that circle who agrees, they all chime in, and then there's this consistent echo chamber, validation. And so most of the time, probably like most of you, I look at those things, I read, and I gather information, and I try to work hard not to focus on judgment, and because again, as I shared with someone this morning, we have to take people where we find them and consider all of us as works in progress, and hopefully moving towards progress. But one of the real questions, and this is the one that I want to put out there for today, and I want to leave you with, because we're not going to chat for a long time today, is that, although I thought when it meant going back to school that I had positioned myself, that I had been doing the things that were going to help me to be immediately, overwhelmingly successful from day one, right? And there were some things that were good. There were some things that were helpful, but still facing the challenges of getting into the rhythm and learning to not only process but organize the information, because this is a whole new ballgame. It's schooling at a different level. It's information at a different level, processing in a different way for different results. And when I look at the conversations and the reality that we have, it makes me want to ask myself and ask you, and with some of my other friends that you'll see some things that we're doing, collaborating together on, is, are we really positioning ourselves to grow? Are we really positioning ourselves to think? When I see so many of these conversations and I see the heels that are dug in, and for example, again, a conversation last night that had to do with media and how the faces of media have changed. And so there's this whole dialogue that gets wrapped around that. And then that gets tied into a specific agenda and a specific purpose. And without any of the detail, because you take the same conversation and we can apply it to 10, 15 different conversations that, if you're paying attention, we're all going to see and hear and experience. But the question is, how many times do we enter in those conversations, see those conversations, hear those conversations? How many situations are we putting ourselves in where, like all of my fellow students in my class or professors or whoever, that we're positioning ourselves to learn, and to learn in a different way, and to not just think that, because this is where I am, because this is how I've learned in the past, because this is how life has come to me and what I've experienced, that's just the way that it is. And we're looking at a very controversial election. And you know what? The previous election was very controversial. The two elections before that, apparently, were the most important and most controversial elections that were going to have the greatest impact on our nation than any other election before. And that conversation keeps getting repeated every time. And the question is, let me say this. Donald Trump might get reelected. Our nation isn't going to die and fall apart as a result. Joe Biden might get elected. The wheels are not going to fall off, and there will be the United States of America before Joe Biden, the United States of America after Joe Biden. I listened to plenty of gloom and doom about what's going to happen if Barack Obama was elected, and George Bush. All of that fatalistic stuff really ties into the point that I'm trying to make, is that we're not even learning from our recent history, which creates the problem of the reality that we're definitely not learning from our more distant history. We're not paying attention, and we're not willing to, in general, what I'm seeing now. And you've seen on the show, there are some amazing exceptions to this, and people that we look up to and admire and are connected with, especially in the city that we live, where people are growing and changing and evolving in their thought, and really excited and willing to say that. But we're creating a culture. I'm concerned that we're creating a culture that doesn't value learning, understanding, accepting, and growing the way that it should. And I got a thread this morning that said, I'm tired of political correctness and things like that. And I think that all of these terms get overused, or maybe even underused. The words don't mean what they really were intended to mean. I feel like, going back into school, that, one of the greatest things that I've experienced already is realizing that I don't have it figured out. I don't know how to learn the way that I need to. And so part of the process is getting the information. Part of the process is changing the way that I think and the way that I do things to get the results that I say that I want. And so that's where my real drive and passion is in this conversation. What are the results that we say that we want? An amazing conversation that I had with a gentleman that's connected with this group called Braver Angels. I think they've changed their name. Better Angels is what they used to be called. Coming from Abraham Lincoln's address, we must all let us all rely on our better angels to get us through this time. And I asked him, in the end, do you think the people on the other side politically, because he's of the mindset that there's one side and there's another side, and most people, it seems like, are. I don't tend to want to agree with that. I said, the end result, what do you think that the other side wants? And how different is it from what you want? Especially in light of your children, your grandchildren, your legacy, the things that in the end. And he said something that I thought was amazing. He said, I think we all basically want the same things. Ultimately, we want the same things. I've yet to come across anyone who says, I want this country to be worse for my grandchildren. I want my generation to be the generation that destroys this great experiment, right? And so nobody says that. But he said, I think ultimately we all want the same thing, the same results. But their method for wanting to get there is what I don't agree with. Their process for wanting to get there. And I thought that was brilliant. Because even if we can start there, even if we can say that the end result is what we want, then there are things that we can do if we really believe that. If we really believe everybody wants to live a good, healthy life and be safe and happy, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, prosperity, a better life. If we really believe that ultimately that's what everybody wants. Now, some people don't believe that. But if we really believe that's what everybody wants and we're all shooting for the same objective, then it would only make sense to want to listen and learn from the other person. But because of the way that we've conditioned ourselves, just like me, even though I thought I was preparing, I thought I was positioned, I thought I was so ready and so eager. And there was a lot of good in that process. I didn't know what it was going to take. I didn't know the other skills, the other things that I needed to focus and sharpen on. And it wasn't until I got in that environment and now being in it, learning, listening, paying attention, commiserating, after the midterms with my study group and other people on how challenging it was. I never seen so much red ink in my life. That now I'm beginning to understand what this phase and what this process is all about. And I think this is the exact same conversation that we really need to have. Are we positioning ourselves to learn what life needs to be like in the future? Because it's never going to be like it was in the past. And I can say that in light of, I don't care what the political slogan or ideology is, America is not going back to what it has ever been in the past. And either America is going to be greater towards the future or be worse towards the future, but it's going to be the future. It's going to be something different. It's not going to be what it was. And, I was rethinking, and I'm going to hopefully bring someone on who's a music major and has a degree in music therapy, because I was going over this concept of those two sitcoms from the 70s, All in the Family and The Jeffersons. And I was going over that again and really trying to break down the mentality, because we are still being caught and struggling with this, the dichotomy of what used to be one show that became two shows, um, of thought within the nation. The problem is it's gone from just, one thought in our nation to a divergent, and two thoughts and three thoughts. And now we have this amazing opportunity to really be um, a, a conglomeration of lifestyles and thoughts and ways of thinking that are different. So we don't all have to believe the same thing. We don't all have to think the same way. The question is, are we still learners? Do we still believe that we have a lot to learn to get to where we want to go? Do we still believe that the greatest gift that we have is the gray matter in between our ears that allows us to be different than any other creature on the planet, and allows us to be able to think in a way that we create destiny and future and the things that happen in front of us? Because here's what I do know. Learning does not come, we can learn from the past, but learning does not come from trying to recreate or maintain the past. The only thing that the past does for us is gives us a template, gives us information, gives us data that allows us to create a greater and a better future, a better opportunity. And it starts in this moment. And so if we're still operating on the operating systems, the thinking systems of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, did I just skip past those? Yeah, I did. I just skipped past those two sitcoms, All in the Family, The Jeffersons. We're going to do, I don't know, I'm going to bring in this guy, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the difference in those mentalities. One show, theme songs. We're not even talking about the shows. There's tons of content from the shows, but again, that's that's low hanging fruit. But just the mentality of the theme song. Go and listen to it. I sang them both this week, driving in the car, just thinking about where we are now and how it's almost a perfect picture. It seems like it's almost prophetic of where we are today, where one mindset was saying, those were the days. This is what it was like, good old days. And another voice was saying, looking to the future, saying things are moving up, things are getting better, opportunities being created. It's all changing. And this is not a commentary on which one of those thoughts is better or right, but it is a commentary on the fact that if we're not willing to think and understand why other people find comfort, solace in this line of thinking, and other people find comfort, solace, peace, hope, inspiration in this line of thinking, then we've forgotten that it's important for us to be learners. And the thing that we need to study the most, the things that we need to understand the most, more, in my opinion, more than our impact on the globe, more than recycling, more than, a lot of these economic theories, the thing that we need to learn and continue to learn and understand the most, two things, in my opinion: ourselves and who we are, being self-aware. Yes, you are biased. Yes, you do have predispositions. Yes, you are narrow-minded. Yes, you are selfish. And some of these things are part of the human nature just for the sake of preservation of our existence, right? Some of this is part of our lizard brain that helps us to feel safe. But we have to evolve in our thinking. You need to learn. We need to learn ourselves, and we need to be prepared to be students of society, students of culture, students of the people around us, because that's what makes the world what it is today. None of us any longer get to live in this isolation of my world, my way, or the highway. It just doesn't exist anymore, not in this country. And maybe you live in a place where everybody thinks like you. Then you got to stay there, and you got to stay off the internet, and you've got to let life pass you by. Or else you got to join me and everybody else and say, you know what? I got to learn how to learn, to be better and to grow, to be the person that, because there's no way to fulfill our potential. There's no way to become everything individually and collectively that we can be when we've chosen to stop learning and to not be the lifelong learners, studying the humanity of our own lives and the lives of people around us. That's what's going to make the difference. That's what's going to put elections and policies and all of these things into perspective. But we've got to get out of this stasis that where my mind is and where I am is the only thing that matters. So think about that. We got some great conversations coming up. Glad to be back. I'm Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. We'll talk to you soon. Go and make it the best day you've ever had.